xDefiant's closed beta has started, and it's a bit of a mixed bag. On one side, you have a lot of COD players who are praising the game for having features that have been abandoned by the more recent installments, and others who are a bit on the fence and don't really see the appeal. So what's going on? Well, first off, as I had mentioned in my previous video about this, is that the netcode isn't completed. So even on a good day, this game in its current state of the closed beta is not going to feel as tight and consistent as it should be. And top that off, with the game having some server stability issues with everyone trying to play the game at the same time, it can make for a frustrating and confusing experience. I feel if these issues are cleared up, the gameplay would be that much better. But of course, there are other complaints outside of this, such as the character abilities, faulting not feeling all that smooth, and the overall look of the game. Outside of one faction in particular, where their abilities is healing, character abilities seem to be relatively balanced and fair enough. Obviously, the developers will need to keep a close eye on every ability and be on top of making changes that better suits the game. It is annoying to go against the healing characters right now, since there is no delay to their heals while they're getting shot at. It can be game-breaking if too many players are running this faction on one team, but because the game does not have skill-based matchmaking, you don't run into those lobbies all that often. So it is still playable and nothing stops you from running those characters as well. I can only hope that developers make proper changes to bring these characters back in line. I think for the most part the character animations work really well. The only downside right now is the vaulting. It feels a little disconnected. Fortunately, there are not that many locations on most maps that requires vaulting, so again, it is something that you can play around, but it is definitely frustrating when you're trying to hop over a 2-foot tall object and lose a gunfight because of it. When it comes to how the game looks, I don't really know what to say. Yeah, sure, it could look better, no doubt about that, but this is a from the ground up free-to-play game that is using factions and abilities you would see from other Ubisoft titles. And although many open world Ubisoft games play the same, they don't all look the same, so finding that kind of middle ground could be tough. Especially when you consider that the game originally had the Tom Clancy moniker. You can call this an excuse, but I also think part of the game's design is to make it easier to get higher frame rates. It doesn't excuse the game from looking bad, as CSGO still holds up really well, and a game like Valorant uses stylized graphics, which helps out a lot. I know I've been staying optimistic about this game, and I'm glad I'm not the only one, but for those who don't really understand the appeal, allow me to give a short explanation. With the Battle Royale genre still holding strong, there's been a lack of FPS games as of late, as everyone is trying to swing for the fences and make it BR themselves, with games like Radical Heights, Hyperscape, Realm Royale, and more. It seems like the more traditional arcade arena style shooter isn't around these days outside of Call of Duty. And yes, we do have the more elimination based games such as CSGO and Valorant, but those are hipfire shooters. It's a gameplay style that I don't really prefer. I want to have the actual gunplay. And again, outside of Call of Duty, the only other shooter out there would be Rainbow Six Siege. But that game requires an insane amount of patience and passion from the player. Again, a very specific playstyle. xDefiant is really the only game that dares try to use similar elements from COD and put their own twist to it, even if that twist is bringing characters in from other Ubisoft titles. It's not groundbreaking, it's not revolutionary, but it's fun. It's what a lot of us have been wanting for months now, just a solid gaming experience. Right now, xDefiant is in a closed beta, there are things missing, and again, the lack of a properly functioning netcode is really dragging this title down. But if they can nail down those imperfections and keep the game balanced, it's a game that I can see myself playing every day. What has been your experience so far with xDefiant? Do you think it's got staying power, or do you think it will die out? Let me know in the comments below and let's talk about it. Until then, I am Mr. Rain, and I will see you next time.